Obviously, there's been a huge amount of uncertainty this year, particularly around government policy and taxation, and that has caused some temporary, uncertainty and slowdown in activity. And one of the risks for 2026 is that slowdown perpetuates and perhaps gets even worse, and we see some very sluggish economic growth. That's not our base case, but it's certainly something to be mindful of and to watch as we move into the early part of next year. And then aside from that, it's the typical sort of international risks and potential for left field events that we haven't really prepared ourselves for to upset the markets. But on the whole, we feel pretty positive about the outlook for 2026 in the UK.
Well, I don't think we're in a bubble like the late 90s dot-com crash, but I am worried about the concentration in the market. If you look at the three super sectors, technology, traditional cyclicals, and defensives, the technology supersector is almost a 60% weighting of the market, a 50-year high. In a world where growth is hard to find, investors are herding around the few companies in tech that are providing it. But the extreme herding around this single theme is dangerous. I have about half of this level of exposure to the tech supersector, and broader, more balanced exposure to resilient, reliable, and repeatable growth companies outside of tech.
In terms of the key risks that we're facing as a bond investor in the period ahead, there are two main areas where we have some concerns. The outlook from a macroeconomic standpoint still remains uncertain, and within that, the inflation component is the area which could do the most damage to bond markets. If we see a re-acceleration of inflation, then that could undermine the outlook for bond markets. The other main risk that we are concerned about is something within the financial system, something which causes confidence and sentiment to be damaged, and possibly see losses from investors who have allocated into parts of the market where there's an undue level of risk, which then has to be unwound. And that has a feed-through effect into broader fixed income markets. So I think the concerns we have remain on that inflation piece, but then also some of the risks within the financial system, build-up of leverage, and maybe a lack of liquidity to exit those positions.